Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Trevor Carlson and I am the host of the Formula Podcast, where we break down and explore the elements of health, wealth, happiness, and achievement with guests from all over the world. And today we're going to talk about the ins and outs of being an independent singer and songwriter.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Moen, and I'm very happy to be here today.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by LadyBoss. LadyBoss is the first global weight loss and support community for women. Their mission is to help women lose weight while loving themselves. They help women get their confidence back, improve the overall quality of their life, and change the health of the entire family. They do this through providing the best information, products, and services possible in fitness, nutrition, and accountability. LadyBoss. Over 1,309,573 women supported and counting. To sign up for LadyBoss, head to the sponsored products page on theformulapodcast.com. Now, back to the show.
First off, thanks for taking the time to come hang out. I know it's kind of like out of the blue. I think I messaged you on Facebook and I was like, hey, Elizabeth, I know a bunch of the same people you do. I've seen you play before. Really like to interview you. So thanks for taking a chance and showing up today.
It's chill. It's great. I've got a couple weeks off from touring and, like a month. So got time to chill.
Yeah,
it's great.
So you're chilling now in Iowa City before you go back on tour, or?
Yep.
Cool.
I've been on the road since July and going back on the road in like January 3rd. So we got back December 2nd. So it was just a solid month of not being in the van.
So you're sleeping out of the back of the van then? Oh, okay.
It's couch surfing. I have a lot of family in Eastern Iowa, so just in friends in Iowa City, so just everywhere and nowhere.
Yeah.
It's great.
So you've been a musician for a few years now, since you basically since you graduated college, right? Or even before?
Started songwriting the fall of 2015, and then recorded out at Flat Black, and then I graduated a year after I started songwriting. Okay. So yeah, it's been like 3 years.
So how did you go from growing up in Vinton, Iowa, to now, you were telling me before about how you recorded this song in the mountains in Ireland. What was that process or journey like?
I don't know, finally being comfortable expressing myself through music. It was, doing covers was fun, but finally allowing myself to write lyrics really helped. Living in a small town, everyone's nice, but there's that facade, where it's hard to actually truly be yourself in a small town if you're a little different than the rest. So once I got to college, I got more comfortable, and then by the end of college, I was very comfortable.
Yeah.
And I never thought I would, record a song over in Ireland, but I never thought I'd even go to Ireland. But yeah, just someone saying, do that, and then you're like, all right, and then you do it.
Right. So I grew up in Ida Grove, so it's around like 2,000 people. So I'm familiar with like the small town, thing.
Yeah.
I was very similar when I grew up. I definitely did not fit into the, I guess, the typical small town person profile. I was more into books and stuff like that than like football. So going to college for me was probably very similar, where all of a sudden you're around people that have similar interests as you, and you're kind of able to pursue things that you care about without worrying about the small town, like how you look in the small town, right?
Whenever I describe how I feel about my small town, people think I resent it or have a lot of disdain, which I think everyone does a little bit, like a teeny tiny bit. But, you know, it was great. I had a great, you know, even the bad parts of it helped me become who I am. But yeah, I think most people, when they finally leave their small town, they're like, yeah, it's, why was I there?
So you're born and raised there, probably.
Yeah.
Because my parents chose to live there. I was stuck with them. No, I can relate to the, not necessarily a resentment, but I don't know.
Oh, and I don't have that.
Yeah.
I don't have, like, if I have it, it's like so tiny.
Right.
It's so tiny.
I know the feeling you're talking about, though, because I carried that with me for a very long time as well. It wasn't like, I don't know, it's hard to put into exact words because you don't have any ill will or anything. But
no,
it's more
but there's
just,
always that, like, you know, I was a certain person then, and now I'm very different, and I'm doing a job I never thought I'd be doing, and going back there before I was 100% certain with what I wanted to do with my life. I did feel anxiety about running into people, or I don't know, but now I don't give a shit at all.
Yeah, and I think that spending time away from there kind of helps you detach a little bit from that, and it's almost like you kind of get to this comfort level with yourself where you're just like, this doesn't actually matter anymore. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
So how did you get into music?
My grandpa gave me a guitar in middle school because I was super into Jimi Hendrix, Rolling Stones, Peter Paul. I liked the sound of the guitar, and a lot of the music I was veering towards had guitar prominently in the recordings. So that's the instrument that I was gifted, and took off from there. And when I was a foreign exchange student in France for a full
nice.
12 months when I was a sophomore in high school. So for the first couple months, I could not speak French very well at all. And the way I could connect was with music and not with language.
Yeah.
So then when I came back to Iowa, and there were 2 years where I had like some really great friends those 2 years. And also my brother was in high school and I was in high school. But I did have a lot of alone time. And instead of also my dad was a juvenile probation officer. So I didn't really get to go out much on the weekends.
Yeah.
So instead of that, I would just sit in my room and look up songs that I liked and then sing along to them and play them.
Nice.
Then I went to an open mic finally when I was, I think, 20 at the Mill.
Oh, nice.
And then enough people, after those Monday night open mics, people were like, well, someone at the Mill was like, if you could finally, if you had, not finally, but if you had original songs, or if you had a band or anything, if you'd want to put on a show here, we think you'd do really well. And I had never even thought of that. I was like, whoa, a show? Not just doing this open mic, this one that I go to ever. And then, enough friends and family were like, you should write your own songs. Have you ever thought about that? And enough people asked me, have you ever thought about writing your own songs? And I was like, fuck, maybe I should. But I was still too nervous to do it. I was afraid of sounding cheesy or overdramatic, or if I actually expressed how I felt, would people be freaked out or concerned? But then I started listening to all the music I listened to, and it's all pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I guess I just have to be honest. And then I finally, out of nowhere, I was sitting on my friend's couch. It hit me. I was like, oh, a song idea. And then everyone else went out, or the people I was with went out and then came back, and then I had a song. But it was definitely hey, you want to hang out? And I was like, no, I can't. I think something's happening in my brain. And then I wrote it down, I thought it out, and then I showed those friends, and they were like, yeah, this is a song. Yeah. There's maybe some edits, but...
Yeah. Is that a song that you ended up producing? and released
Yeah, it's called Songbird.
Songbird.
And then the first song I ever did with a full band is called 312 East Market Street. So that's the address of George's in Iowa City, the bar.
Uh-huh.
And I legit wrote, now this is cheesy, but I wrote some of the first lines on a napkin in there.
That's cool. Do you ever have those moments where you do something and you look back? You do something in the moment, and then in the future you see someone else doing it and you're like, why are they doing that? And you're like, oh shit.
Oh, I totally
I did
know.
that.
Yeah.
I did that once.
Yeah, I definitely I see that sometimes, but I see why they're doing it, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
sometimes you have to do that cheesy stuff, or maybe that stuff you don't want to do.
There's probably a reason why it's a cliche or cheesy, because maybe that's where the best inspiration comes from for musicians, is when they're hanging out with their friends in the bar. So.
That 312 East Market song is still one of my favorite songs because the observations are so specific, and I don't know if I would have remembered them best had I not written them down.
Yeah. So you said you did the open mics, and they had you come back and play your first show there. Do you remember what it was like to play your first show at the Mill?
Yeah, it was great. It was nerve-wracking because everyone did know me, and this was my first time presenting myself as, a musician, and that was surreal. But the amount of support I had from the people sitting in the audience after that show, I was like, yeah, I want to keep doing this.
What happened between that first show and where you are now? Releasing your first vinyl, taking your break from your touring you've been doing here recently. What happened between now and then?
Well, I finished school, so that meant I could tour.
Yeah.
I almost didn't finish school because my heart was completely into before writing songs, I was much more homework oriented, only 20 semester hours, just really into school. And then the more I started going to shows and playing shows, I was like, I think I like this more.
Yeah.
Just kind of, but to set a good example for, anyone I know, like my little cousins or, my kids one day, even no matter what, I'm like, I finished college, I finished it. I did something and I finished that. So yeah, after graduating, 3 months or 4 or 5 months after that, I released my first vinyl, May 2017. And then I did some Midwest touring, a little bit with that. And then in the fall, I went to Ireland.
So what do you think is I want to know the best part and the worst part of being on your own without a label is? I'm curious.
Being tied to any contract is nice.
Yeah, you kind of can go tour where you like.
Yeah, so the nice part is you can write whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, but if you're gonna do it, there's no one to help you.
Yeah.
And there's no one to help you financially. All said and done, oh wow, you made $1,300 in one night? No, I made $0 actually.
Yeah.
They're more often than not, when we get paid in cash, I end up with no money in my hand.
Yeah. So it sounds like, with a label comes a little bit less control, but then without a label, it kind of makes it tough to get some of the bigger shows or get higher paying gigs and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's hard to get the exposure kind of required to get to, you can create a fan base on your own. But I mean, you've got to know someone who knows someone to get even on a Spotify playlist.
Yeah. You talked a lot about the struggles of, being an independent musician and, growing up in a small town, all that stuff. So what keeps you going after going through all this stuff?
Yeah, I just complained a lot. I shouldn't.
It's okay.
I think it's important to be honest about all aspects of it. So people who do want to do it, you know, I think getting a heads up, not to deter people from doing it, but if I would have known there was this much business stuff involved, I would have been hopefully more on my shit like when I first started. But it's honestly it's the playing itself when you finally, at least as a songwriter, even though, you know, you might go through times when you're kind of in a dry spell, when you're finally not in it, that's when it's worth it. Like when you finally write something, you're like, oh, this is why I do it. Yeah. Because I'm doing it. Whether 5 people are there or whether 300 or 1,000 people are there, I have found that what keeps me going is just being on the stage and playing, and also giving each show the same amount of tenacity and intensity on stage keeps me going. Like even if I know, like, hey, only 5 people are here right now, but if I sing as if we're at the Englert and it's full or something, it feels good.
Yeah, I remember the show at the Englert. I actually have no idea what song that you were playing, but I just remember. I don't either. That's okay. I just remember I was sitting there with Adrian because he was like, "Oh, we have to go. Elizabeth's playing." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'd never heard of you or seen you play at that point in time. And he's like, "Oh, she's one of my favorites." I'm like, "She's from Iowa City. Like, she lives in Iowa City, and she's one of your." I'm like, "Okay, all right, I'll go." But I just remember you came out on stage and you had like this, I don't know, this like energy and like I don't know, your voice just sounded extremely, I want to use the word powerful, but I don't know if that's the right one. It's not a music term.
That sounds,
it was
that's
just
a compliment. Like, I'm into it.
Yeah,
it's great.
I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. This is fun. So yeah, I can see, when I'm in the audience, I can feel the energy as well when you're like, yeah, this is why I'm here. So yeah, I think that makes sense, especially if you're in a room of 5 people, or there's 5 people in the room and you sing like that. I imagine you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, on this tour on the West Coast, again, I like being 100% honest about everything always, which sometimes is not good, but most of the time it's great.
It's refreshing.
Yeah, and on the tour, you know, people will be like, oh my gosh, how was tour? And I'll be like, it was, like, all in all, pretty great. But there were also some, like, I'm not gonna lie and be like, oh yeah, at our LA show, there was 100 people. No, there were 5 people. And at that point it was solo, because it's important to me to compensate the people I play with best I can. So I flew my bandmates back to Iowa for Thanksgiving. So I did the rest of the tour solo. So they were home with their families. And yeah, in LA, I showed up. And yeah, the only people there were a couple people I knew who lived in LA and the sound guy. And I was sitting there before, and I was setting up my amp. And I was like, wow, I spent so much time putting together, I mean, you know, the tour poster, getting that there, printing it out. Then you got to post about shit on social media all the time. And anyways, I finally got there and I was like, wow, I spent so much time on promoting that specific show because it was LA, you know?
Yeah.
And 5 people were there. I was like, damn. And then I started playing, or right before I started playing, I was like, yeah, but at least no matter what happens, you get to play in LA. And did you ever think you were gonna do that? No. And I did it, and it was super fun. And I sang so hard that I almost, you know, I was kind of hoarse the rest of the night because I sang so hard to nobody. And I think it's important to do that. Even if you're someone who, you know, in your room or in the studio, singing or playing your ass off, that's all that really matters, you know? So, and then there were also some shows when we were on tour where I was like, all right, guys, heads up. There's going to be like nobody here, but we're going to have fun, whatever. And there were a bunch of people there.
Yeah. The next question is, I'm sure as you travel, or even when you come back to Iowa from playing the shows on the coast or playing in islands, there's probably people that ask you, like, you know, for advice, that they want to do it or they want to put together a band or something like that. You know, what advice do you have for those people out there that, you know, they want to be doing what you're doing?
First piece of advice is don't be afraid to show people what you're doing. Like once you've created something, it never hurts to get feedback from people who, you know, your friends, your family, like even if you're, just getting, like showing people what you're doing, and they might give you, even like your grandpa who doesn't know anything about music might say something about a song you're trying out that is actually like, oh yeah, I should totally do that a different way. Another piece of advice is to go, when you're starting out, go to as many open mics as possible. The more you play new material in front of people, you can gauge what songs are the ones that not only are your favorites, but other people's favorites.
Yeah.
Because another piece of advice is if you're gonna write a song and you're gonna perform it, you're gonna have to just sing that song a lot.
Yeah.
So you've gotta write as much as you can and then perform the songs that you're gonna wanna do for a long time, and the songs that are also gonna engage the audience as much as possible too.
You never know what's gonna resonate the most with the crowd until you play it in front of one, I'm sure.
I used to work at Shorts Burger and Shine, downtown.
I'm familiar with Shorts.
Yeah, and Sunday nights I started an open mic there. And so basically I would start the show and then I would have a guest play for like a half hour or so, and then I'd finish the night. Or sometimes I would have multiple people hop up and play my guitar and sing. And that was awesome, because every Sunday night I got to try out a handful of new songs I wrote, and I'd sing all of them. And I think, oh, that one I wrote on Wednesday, it's my favorite. Everyone's gonna fucking love it. And then I play it and everyone's like, oh, whatever, like it's fine. But then I'd, play a song. I'd play a song that I didn't think people would like, and then people liked it. I'm like, oh. And then I play it again the next week, and people would be like, oh, yeah. So, those are the ones that, as long as I still like it, are the ones that get on the record, and then the ones on the record are the ones that you tour with, and then the ones you tour with are the ones that you play all the fucking time.
Yeah. If you had one message to leave the audience with, what would it be?
I think the most important thing you can do as an artist is to help other artists when you can. So, yeah, if there's anyone watching this who, one day wants to try and do whatever it is I'm doing,
Yeah.
I'd love to, anytime I can give advice or connect people with each other, it's great. It's what I want to do. So
Cool. So reach out when they're ready to, if they want to do a song or something, or get some advice.
yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap for this show. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Trevor Carlson, and I appreciate you taking the time to stop by, and whether it's viewing our episodes or listening to our podcasts or reading our blog posts, all of you guys really help keep this show going. So I much appreciate your time and attention, and hopefully we provided a little bit of value for you. Now, if you're interested and you think you might enjoy getting some blog posts, emails, other podcasts, guides, any of that sort of thing sent to your inbox every week, go ahead and head over to theformulapodcast.com and sign up for our email list today. That's a wrap for this week's show. Thanks again, everyone, for stopping by, and I look forward to you tuning in next time.